Melissa Murray is back with me, and we're going to talk a little bit about treason. So talk to me a little bit, because, you know, reading through the case, they're trying to really splice these words of the 14th Amendment. And what I found very curious was that there is a different type of penalty, so to speak, if you're talking about inciting a insurrection versus actually engaging in an insurrection. And it's the splitting of the words that it basically has the legal community trying to spin their wheels and figuring out, where is Marjorie Taylor Greene on this landscape? Can you break that down for us?
Well, I'm not sure there is such a big distinction. It's essentially the analog in ordinary criminal law would be the person who has actually done the crime, and then the individuals who have perhaps vetted the individual in doing so. And so the question here is not that Marjorie Taylor Greene was engaged in the insurrection on January 6th, although I think there have been questions raised about whether or not she furnished information or were leading people through the Capitol during that time. I think that's been refuted at this point. But instead, the question was, through her words, actions, and deeds on that day and prior to that day, did she incite the rebellion that occurred? And if she did, that would be furnishing aid to it. And again, there would be liability for that under the Constitution, and it would be a violation of her oath of office.
So what are the repercussions? I can't imagine being in a place of work where my coworker, in this case, Marjorie Taylor Greene, telling a coworker that they wanted to have them killed in the case of Nancy Pelosi. Are there any penalties for that type of threat in the workplace?
Well, we've already seen some of those penalties, and she's been stripped of her committee assignments. There are obviously more forceful penalties that could have been taken. But again, in a very polarized chamber, I think that was harder to do. But again, on a very party line vote, she was stripped of her responsibilities on committees because of the statements that she had made charging harm against some of her colleagues in the Democratic caucus.
I guess one of the challenges in listening to all of these individuals, I mean, you have Marjorie Taylor Greene, you have Mike Lee stating that we are not in a democracy. Newsflash, everyone, we live in a democratic republic, so we are. What are the penalties of having so many people that are right now elected officials stacking the deck against democracy? What moment are we living in right now, legally, in your opinion?
I mean, it's really not a question of law. I think every lawyer has said quite clearly that we are likely on the precipice of a democratic crisis if we are not already in it. I think these are really dangerous times, and this is dangerous rhetoric. One of the great things about being in a democracy is that we have protections under the First Amendment, and that's the thing that individuals hide behind when they make statements like this. Like, I was simply asserting my right to free speech. I wasn't intending to incite a rebellion or anything like that. And, you know, I think with those remarks that Senator Lee tweeted on October 8th, 2020, in advance of the election, that democracy was not the goal, but prosperity and harmony were. I think those raise questions, but they're not necessarily criminal actions. I think those are things that we expect will be dealt with in the political process as opposed to the legal process. And so the question really goes to Senator Lee's constituencies. Is this the person you want representing you in a democracy, someone who apparently doesn't believe in it at all?
Melissa, this whole show has been about how things are not right and that we are living in dangerous times, but it's in an effort to sound the alarm. Thank you so much for spending some time with us this evening.